Thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. So, I've been working in the field of AI for a long time, and one of the realizations I've come to is that it's hard. It's hard to have impact with AI. It's about more than just the technology. It's also about the people, the change management, the strategy, but most importantly, it's about the vision and the ambition. I'm an AI optimist, and I believe that AI is going to make the world a better place. And I believe it's going to make the world a better place in some surprising ways. For example, I think it's going to make the world more human. It will allow us to have more human interactions and better quality human interactions. And I think it's going to make the world more humane. It's going to allow us to raise the quality of life for more of our citizens. The world today can be a scary place. There's lots of changes happening. Growing urbanization and the resulting increase in population density, while at the same time there's this plague of loneliness, isolation, and depression, perhaps in part brought on by the aging population. This growth in the aging population is going to put further stress on our healthcare system. So we face lots of significant challenges. And for many people, AI represents another challenge and another reason for fear. It's because people are afraid of the changes that AI might bring to our society. I think this quote is kind of insightful, and it's a different perspective, right? It's that technology doesn't change society. In fact, usually it's the reverse. Society develops technologies in responses to the changes that are already taking place. And so my view is that these challenges I just spoke about will in large part be addressed by technologies like AI. And if we have the right vision and ambition, that will lead to better outcomes for everybody. So before I say a little bit more about that, let me start by talking about what AI is. So it turns out, one of the first questions I'm often asked is, what is AI? And it's actually a good question, because there are many answers and only a few of them are useful. From my perspective, I think there are two viewpoints that are actually useful today. So the first is the aspirational view. And this is the goal of the field or the goal of the community, which is to put intelligence into a machine. Right, that's the goal, but that's in the future. Today, I think a more useful perspective is the pragmatic view. And that is that AI is a set of technologies. It's a broad set of technologies that can be used today to solve real problems now. It includes things like computer vision, right? The ability to understand images and video. It includes natural language processing, the ability to understand text. It includes speech recognition, the ability to take your speech and convert it to text. Underlying all of these technologies is perhaps the most important AI technology, which is machine learning. There's been this revolution in machine learning in the last, say, 5 years, driven by a technology called deep learning. And frankly, we were not talking about AI 5 years ago, and we are now, and that's because of deep learning. And what's happened is that deep learning allows us to tackle perceptual tasks in human competitive ways. Right? So now we can deal with unstructured information like images, audio, video, speech, and text in human competitive ways. These technologies can be combined today to create new capabilities and solve real problems. Who here has a smart speaker? Anybody? Okay, so a few people do. I have a smart speaker. And I don't think my smart speaker is intelligent, right? It doesn't fulfill the ambition of the field, but it is artificial intelligence because it combines these technologies to create new capabilities. It uses natural language processing, or use speech recognition to convert your speech to text, natural language processing to understand your request and try to address it, and machine learning to improve that ability over time. Other technologies or other capabilities can be similarly created out of this set of technologies. Think about, for example, self-driving cars. So these technologies, as I said, I think can be used to solve some of the major challenges that we face today. This is what growing urbanization looks like now. Increasing density, and that increasing density is only going to get worse. Between now and 2050, there'll be 2.5 billion new people living in cities. That represents the largest human migration in the history of the world. In China alone, there'll be 2 cities with more than 100 million people, including right here. To me, that blows me away. 100 million people is larger than the population of France, Germany, or the UK in a single city. I think it's worth asking why people move to cities in the first place. I mean, people move to cities because they want better jobs, they want better social services, they want better educational opportunities, and they want a higher quality of life. And the reality is today, cities are letting them down. Half the world's unemployed youth live in cities. With increasing density, increasing congestion, and pollution, the quality of life in cities is deteriorating. This is what urban living can look like with AI. In fact, this is my dream. My dream is that I can live in the countryside and commute to a city for work or for social life. This will become increasingly possible with things like self-driving cars. So self-driving cars will, of course, decrease congestion. They'll increase flow of traffic. But also, self-driving cars will provide a place for us to live. Because we're not driving our cars, they can become our offices. They can become potentially our most productive workspace, where we deal with emails, take phone calls. Self-driving cars are places where we can obtain services. Maybe we'll see our doctor in our self-driving car on our commute on the way home. And likewise, with our dentist, maybe that's where we'll get our hair cut. Self-driving cars will become places where we enjoy leisure activities. We watch movies, we read books, we potentially spend time socializing with our friends on the way home. And so commute times of 2 hours or 3 hours really won't matter because we're spending that time in productive ways, giving us the opportunity to live further and further out from the center and change this tendency towards increasing density. This is what living alone often looks like today. There's a plague of isolation, loneliness, and depression. In the US, 1/3 of all people over 45 suffer from loneliness. In China, 66 million people live alone today, and by 2050, it'll be 132 million people, many of them older. And unfortunately, people who live alone often die alone. In the US last year, there was a man in his late 60s, was discovered dead in his house. He'd been dead for more than 2 years and nobody had noticed. Unfortunately, that is not a rare occurrence. In Japan, every year, there are 30,000 similar cases where old people die alone and nobody notices for weeks or months. This isn't the society we aspire to. And so we need to do better. This is what living alone can look like with AI. Empathic AI robots providing companionship, alleviating the symptoms of depression and loneliness. For example, there's the Paro robot, which is a medical device that looks like a baby seal. And it provides companionship to patients with dementia, Alzheimer's, and cognitive decline, alleviating their symptoms of depression. It's being used today in Japan, Europe, and the US. There's a growing number of startups that use AI chatbots to treat mental health issues like depression and provide behavioral therapy. And some of these startups are led by the world's leading AI scientists. AI can not only alleviate the symptoms of loneliness and depression, but it can also minimize or reduce the impacts of living alone. There's a technology from MIT that uses your Wi-Fi signal as a radar to detect where you are in your home. Combined with AI, it can detect decreases in mobility that may be caused by some deteriorating health. Or it can detect when you've fallen and can't get up and call for help. So AI has the potential to both improve quality of life and also minimize the impacts of living alone. This is what good healthcare looks like today. It's cold, it lacks empathy, and the reality is more than half the world's population don't even have access to basic health services. In the US, there's 30 million people without health insurance. And for those that do have access to healthcare, the empathy of that system is decreasing. In the US, the average time patients spend with their doctor is 10 minutes. In China, it's 2 minutes. And in Bangladesh, it's 48 seconds. This situation is obviously only going to get worse with aging populations. The population over the age of 60 is growing faster than all younger age groups combined. And the population above 80 is going to triple by 2050 to more than 425 million people. Aging populations require more healthcare, and they require more empathy in their health treatment. So that growing population is going to make this situation worse. It's going to decrease access to healthcare, it's going to decrease the quality of care, and it's going to decrease empathy. This is what healthcare can look like with AI. So 15 years ago, I was having dinner with a friend of mine who happens to be one of the leading doctors in the US, and I was feeling a little argumentative, and so I put it to her that she would be replaced by an actor and an AI. The actor would provide the empathy, and the AI would provide the medical expertise. She was a little upset with me, and it became a somewhat heated argument. Fortunately, we're still friends 15 years later, and she's had the experience to be exposed, or the opportunity to be exposed to some of the leading AI researchers in healthcare. We recently had dinner again, and she told me, you know what, Nigel, you were right. Not 100% right, but you were right in principle. And so I think healthcare in the future will largely be provided by AI, either directly through chatbots or online, or for patients that need to see a human being, they'll spend time with an empathic human being who has the minimal training required to translate the expertise of AI. The medical expertise will be provided by the AI that will determine the diagnosis, the treatment, and the prescription. Only in the most extreme cases will patients need to see a human expert with years of training. A system like this will increase access, increase quality, and dramatically increase the empathy of the healthcare system. This is what education often looks like today. Teachers lecture students in regimented classrooms, while children, and we as parents, struggle with homework at home. This is a system that hasn't changed in hundreds of years, and it doesn't reflect the diverse needs, capabilities, and learning abilities of our children. This is what education could look like with AI. The concept of the inverted classroom sees children experiencing material for the first time at home, either through video or through digital media. Classroom time is spent engaging with teachers, working through problems, either with the teacher or in small groups of students that face similar challenges. Because this is all digital, AI can observe students as they learn, identify the areas where they have challenges, and target more material for them or pace the material to their pace of learning. It can provide materials to teachers that optimally target the experience of the classroom to improve the learning of those children. And it can pace education for children that have challenges with material, and it can pace it faster for children that are accelerating. A system like this is more empathic, reflects the diversity of our children's learning abilities, needs, and skills. Let me tell you about a case study, some work that we did, that I think brings many of these ideas or issues together. So this is a project called Citizen Intelligence, and we asked ourselves, could we use AI to protect our most vulnerable citizens, our children? Every year, 275 million children suffer from domestic violence. And in the US, 1,750 children die every year from abuse and neglect. What we did was build a system that integrated a variety of data sources from the police, the justice system, the healthcare system, and the welfare system to identify children and families that are most at risk. We distill that information into a case report that the social workers can use to optimally target their treatment and their interventions for those families. This system has been deployed in the UK and in Australia. And in Australia, our work has led to a halving of the number of children that enter care. As I said, I'm an AI optimist. There are lots of challenges that we face today, many of which can be scary. I believe AI is the technology that we are developing to address those challenges and those changes. And with the right vision and the right ambition, we can use AI to build a society that's more human, with more human interactions and better quality human interactions, and more humane, that provides a better quality of living for more of our people. Thank you.